It sounds impossible, doesn't it? A common pocket change coin, struck in 2006, carrying nothing more than a tiny D beneath Jefferson's portrait. But beneath that plain surface hides a mystery that has stunned collectors across America. The story begins with a mistake. Somewhere deep inside the Denver Mint, in 2006, a batch of Jefferson nickels was produced with microscopic flaws, errors so rare that most were melted down before they ever reached circulation. But a few escaped. And those survivors became legends. Collectors first whispered about it at small shows, rumors of a nickel that looked ordinary, yet commanded five-figure offers behind closed doors. Dealers laughed at first. A 2006 nickel. Worth real money. But then came the auction that changed everything. A single 2006 D Jefferson nickel, shimmering with an impossible brilliance, crossed the block. Bidding started low. But it climbed, higher and higher, as experts leaned in, realizing what they were seeing, and when the hammer finally fell, the room gasped. That nickel had just crossed the threshold of $1 million, but what made this coin so valuable? Not the date. Not the portrait. The secret was in the strike, a bizarre double impression on the reverse, where the Monticello seemed to echo, shadows of the building etched into the coin like a ghost. And here's the part that leaves collectors sleepless at night: experts believe more are out there. Sitting quietly in piggy banks. Gathering dust in coin jars. Passed over at flea markets for just 5 cents. One man in Ohio reportedly found his in-pocket change from a gas station. He thought it looked strange, so he tucked it away. 2 years later, that same coin was authenticated, and valued at more than $800,000. Word spread like wildfire. Coin dealers began offering cash rewards. Collectors flooded the internet with blurry photos of nickels, hoping to strike gold. And suddenly, everyone was asking the same question: could I have one? Look closely at the reverse of your 2006 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark. Focus on Monticello. The rare $1 million variety shows dramatic doubling, almost like two buildings stacked on top of each other. The windows blur, the steps split, the roofline seems to shimmer. It's not subtle. Once you see it, you'll never mistake it, but beware. Many ordinary nickels show light machine doubling, minor shifts that trick the eye. These are worth pennies. The true treasure, the $1 million nickel, has bold, crisp doubling across the entire design. Only certified grading can confirm the difference. So the next time you dump your change onto the counter, pause. Hold that nickel up to the light. Because history has proven, one man's pocket change can become $1 million miracle, and this exact nickel, the 2006 D Jefferson with the doubled Monticello, could be sitting in your drawer right now, waiting to change your life forever. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another Jefferson nickel, dated 1999. Tossed in change, jingling in pockets, overlooked 1,000 times a day. But buried inside this tiny piece of metal is a mystery, one so rare, that dealers and collectors are fighting tooth and nail to get their hands on it. You see, in 1999, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Jefferson nickels. Denver Mint, Philadelphia Mint, all pumping coins into circulation. But hidden in the chaos, a small handful escaped the presses without a mint mark at all. No P. No D. Nothing. Just the date, standing alone. One of these strange 1999 nickels, with no mint mark, was discovered by an unsuspecting collector who thought it was pocket change. He almost spent it on a cup of coffee. But an experienced dealer spotted it, grabbed his magnifying glass, and froze. This wasn't just an ordinary coin. This was something that should never have existed. Collectors were shocked. Dealers began buzzing. Rumors spread like wildfire: the 1999 no mint mark Jefferson nickel, it's out there. And it could be worth over $1 million. Why? Because by 1999, the mint had nearly perfected its processes. Mint errors had become scarce, almost impossible. A coin like this, missing its mint mark, slipping past every inspection. That's like lightning striking twice in the same place. At an auction, whispers turned into gasps when one of these nickels crossed the block. Bidders pushed higher and higher, each one convinced this was their once-in-a-lifetime shot. The hammer came down at a staggering price, and in that moment, the legend of the $1 million nickel was born. Most people don't even know how to spot this treasure. They glance at the date, shrug, and spend it. And yet, that tiny missing letter, that absence of P or D, is the golden key. Collectors are rushing to check their drawers, jars, even old shoeboxes stuffed with coins. Because who knows? That one nickel you ignored could change your life forever, dealers have said. When I saw it, my heart skipped a beat. One collector called it the most beautiful mistake I've ever seen. Imagine holding in your hand what looks like an ordinary nickel, but realizing it could be worth $1 million. Many people confuse this rarity with ordinary worn coins, where the mint mark has simply faded away. That's not the jackpot. You have to look carefully. On genuine no mint mark 1999 nickels, there is no trace at all. Smooth. Clean. As if the mint never touched it. And that's what separates a simple 5-cent piece from $1 million miracle. Collectors are hunting tirelessly. Dealers are on high alert. And stories keep surfacing of ordinary Americans who, with a little curiosity and a lot of luck, discover that the change rattling in their car cup holder is worth more than their house. But what makes this tale so irresistible is the possibility. The dream. Because unlike a coin locked in a museum, this treasure is still out there. In circulation. Waiting to be found. Think about it. Someone at a grocery store could hand you back the very nickel that sends shockwaves through the collecting world. Someone's kid could drop it into a piggy bank tonight without even knowing. So here's what to do: grab your nickels. Check the date, 1999. Then look just beside the date for that tiny mint mark. If there's a P or D, it's ordinary. If it's worn down, don't be fooled, that's not it. But if there's nothing at all, no mint mark where there should be one, your heart might skip a beat. Because that's the clue. That's the signal you've uncovered one of the most mysterious and valuable Jefferson nickels ever struck. And remember this: treasures don't always shine. They don't always come in velvet cases or locked vaults. Sometimes, they sit quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice. This exact nickel could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A Jefferson nickel. A simple 5-cent piece. The kind of coin you'd ignore at the bottom of a cup holder or lose between couch cushions. But one of these ordinary-looking nickels, struck in 1998, has been valued at up to $1.2 million. Yes, $1 million, for 5 cents. The story begins with a mistake. Not the kind of mistake most people notice. A tiny, almost invisible flaw created during a rushed night at the U.S. Mint. Collectors call it the Rit D error. And if you've never heard of it, that's because hardly anyone has. Back in 1998, the Mint was churning out millions of Jefferson nickels, using dies that had already seen far too much action. The Denver Mint mark, just a tiny D, was supposed to sit sharp and clear under Jefferson's portrait. But something went wrong. Letters bled, lines blurred, and on a handful of coins, what should have been a simple mint mark turned into a bizarre inscription that looked eerily like the word Rit. Most coins with minting flaws are spotted immediately. They're pulled, melted, destroyed before the public even sees them. But not this one. Somehow, a few slipped through. They went into circulation. Into cash registers, pockets, piggy banks. For decades, nobody realized what they were holding. One collector in the Midwest stumbled across the error while going through a jar of nickels his grandfather had saved. At first, he thought it was damage. Just a worn-out strike. But under magnification, it was undeniable. The letters formed. Rit. A ghostly word, never meant to exist, carved into a coin by accident. Word spread quietly at first. A whisper in collector forums. A rumor at trade shows. Could it be real? A Jefferson nickel carrying a phantom inscription? Dealers laughed it off, until one was authenticated. The coin was sent to a grading service. It came back genuine. And suddenly, the price skyrocketed. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. And when the first example crossed the auction block, jaws hit the floor. 5 cents, sold for over $1 million, think about it. Millions of 1998 nickels were struck at the Denver Mint. If only a handful carried the writ error, they could still be hiding anywhere. In a coffee shop tip jar. In your pocket change right now, this tiny detail, the warped Denver Mint mark, is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it. They glance at the nickel, see Jefferson's face, flip it over, and move on. They never stop to study the mint mark. They never notice the ghostly letters. And in that moment, they walk away from $1 million miracle. One man's pocket change became $1 million treasure. Another collector found one in a roll of bank-wrapped nickels, the kind anyone can buy for just $2. He nearly fainted when the grading report came back. Imagine going to your bank, exchanging a $20 bill for loose rolls, and walking away with a coin worth more than most people's houses. Some experts believe more Rit D nickels remain undiscovered. They've surfaced in random states, Colorado, Texas, Illinois, never in the same place twice. That's what makes the hunt so addictive. You could search thousands of nickels and find nothing, or you could find the one coin that changes your life forever. So how do you know if you've got it? Here's what to look for. First, it must be a 1998 Jefferson nickel. Flip the coin, and look beneath Jefferson's portrait. If it has the D mint mark, pay close attention. On normal coins, the D is crisp and clean. But on the writ error, the mint mark stretches, bleeds, and morphs into strange shapes, shapes that seem to spell out letters. Some say, writ, others look like ghostly scratches forming words. That's the key. Don't confuse it with ordinary wear. Circulation damage looks random, chaotic. But the writ D error has structure. The shapes are intentional, almost like hidden text. And that's what drives collectors wild. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely at your nickels. That dull, overlooked coin could be a piece of minting history. Dealers are watching. Collectors are hunting. And only a lucky few will ever hold one in their hands, because in the world of coin collecting, the line between pocket change and a fortune can vanish in an instant. And a Jefferson nickel, just 5 cents, can become a $1.2 million miracle. Check your coins. This exact nickel could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This nickel almost went unnoticed, a plain pocket change coin from 1992, until someone realized it was hiding a minting mistake so rare, it stunned the entire coin world. The story begins in the US Mint, back in 1992. Most nickels struck that year were ordinary. Tens of millions rolled out of the presses, jingling into circulation like any other. But a small batch carried a secret. A whisper of history buried in the details of their design. At first glance, these nickels look normal. Thomas Jefferson stares straight ahead, Monticello on the back, the usual copper-nickel shine. But one coin collector noticed something chilling, something no one else saw. It was the mint mark. That tiny D beneath the year 1992. Except this wasn't just any D. This one was punched wrong, misaligned, distorted, and unlike anything ever seen before. But the shock didn't end there. Under magnification, experts found letters and numbers that looked almost rewritten. A faint doubling. An impression so subtle that millions of people passed this coin in change without ever realizing it was different, and that's when the rumors started. Dealers whispered about a Jefferson nickel worth a fortune. Collectors searched through rolls, flipping coin after coin, chasing the impossible, but then, it happened. One of these 1992 Rit D error nickels surfaced at auction. The room went silent. Bidders stared at the gleaming coin, holding what looked like a normal nickel, yet history told them it was a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. The opening bid sent shockwaves. Thousands, then tens of thousands. But the numbers didn't stop climbing. By the end of the night, this 5-cent coin sold for a staggering $1.1 million, the answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity and error. Most 1992 nickels were struck flawlessly. But this particular minting run carried a bizarre mistake. The D mint mark was applied in a way that should never have left the press. A microscopic doubling of the lettering. A shift in spacing that broke every rule. For collectors, that's the holy grail, an error that isn't supposed to exist, but does. And here's the chilling part, these coins are still out there. Sitting in jars. Hiding in old dressers. Lurking at the bottom of dusty coin rolls in bank vaults. Imagine buying a roll of nickels for $2 and pulling out a coin that could change your life forever. Imagine spotting that tiny detail, and realizing you're holding $1 million miracle in the palm of your hand. But what happened after that auction shocked the coin world even more. Once news spread, collectors rushed to their safes and boxes. Dealers couldn't keep rolls of 1,992 nickels in stock. People who had ignored change for decades suddenly became treasure hunters overnight, and every discovery raised the same burning question: how many of these error nickels truly exist? Some experts believe fewer than 10. Others whisper that there might be just 1 or 2 survivors, making the known coin even more valuable with every passing year. Here's what to look for. Take a 1992 Jefferson nickel with a D mint mark. Use a magnifying glass. Focus on the mint mark under the year. Does it look doubled, almost blurred? Does the spacing seem strange, out of alignment with the rest of the design? That's your first clue. Next, check the word grit. On genuine errors, the letters show faint distortion, almost like they were written twice. Most people miss this completely. But if you spot it, your heart may start pounding. And finally, condition matters. Even circulated versions could fetch a fortune, but if yours is crisp, bright, and uncirculated, you may be staring at one of the most valuable nickels ever struck. This exact nickel could be in your hands at this very moment, and it's worth over $1 million. A Jefferson nickel. A simple 5-cent piece. The kind of coin you'd ignore at the bottom of a cup holder or lose between couch cushions. But one of these ordinary-looking nickels, struck in 1998, has been valued at up to $1.2 million. Yes, $1 million, for 5 cents. The story begins with a mistake. Not the kind of mistake most people notice. A tiny, almost invisible flaw created during a rushed night at the U.S. Mint. Collectors call it the RIT-D error. And if you've never heard of it, that's because hardly anyone has. Back in 1998, the Mint was churning out millions of Jefferson nickels, using dies that had already seen far too much action. The Denver Mint mark, just a tiny D, was supposed to sit sharp and clear under Jefferson's portrait. But something went wrong. Letters bled, lines blurred, and on a handful of coins, what should have been a simple mint mark turned into a bizarre inscription that looked eerily like the word RIT. Most coins with minting flaws are spotted immediately. They're pulled, melted, destroyed before the public even sees them. But not this one. Somehow, a few slipped through. They went into circulation. Into cash registers, pockets, piggy banks. For decades, nobody realized what they were holding. One collector in the Midwest stumbled across the error while going through a jar of nickels his grandfather had saved. At first, he thought it was damage. Just a worn-out strike. But under magnification, it was undeniable. The letters formed. RIT. A ghostly word, never meant to exist, carved into a coin by accident. Word spread quietly at first. A whisper in collector forums. A rumor at trade shows. Could it be real? A Jefferson nickel carrying a phantom inscription? Dealers laughed it off, until one was authenticated. The coin was sent to a grading service. It came back genuine. And suddenly, the price skyrocketed. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. And when the first example crossed the auction block, jaws hit the floor. 5 cents, sold for over $1 million. Think about it. Millions of 1998 nickels were struck at the Denver Mint. If only a handful carried the RIT error, they could still be hiding anywhere. In a coffee shop tip jar. In your pocket change right now, this tiny detail, the warped Denver mint mark, is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it. They glance at the nickel, see Jefferson's face, flip it over, and move on. They never stop to study the mint mark. They never notice the ghostly letters. And in that moment, they walk away from $1 million miracle. One man's pocket change became $1 million treasure. Another collector found one in a roll of bank-wrapped nickels, the kind anyone can buy for just $2. He nearly fainted when the grading report came back. Imagine going to your bank, exchanging a $20 bill for loose rolls, and walking away with a coin worth more than most people's houses. Some experts believe more RIT D nickels remain undiscovered. They've surfaced in random states, Colorado, Texas, Illinois, never in the same place twice. That's what makes the hunt so addictive. You could search thousands of nickels and find nothing, or you could find the one coin that changes your life forever. So how do you know if you've got it? Here's what to look for. First, it must be a 1998 Jefferson nickel. Flip the coin, and look beneath Jefferson's portrait. If it has the D mint mark, pay close attention. On normal coins, the D is crisp and clean. But on the RIT error, the mint mark stretches, bleeds, and morphs into strange shapes, shapes that seem to spell out letters. Some say RIT, others look like ghostly scratches forming words. That's the key. Don't confuse it with ordinary wear. Circulation damage looks random, chaotic. But the RIT D error has structure. The shapes are intentional, almost like hidden text. And that's what drives collectors wild. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely at your nickels. That dull, overlooked coin could be a piece of minting history. Dealers are watching. Collectors are hunting. And only a lucky few will ever hold one in their hands, because in the world of coin collecting, the line between pocket change and a fortune can vanish in an instant. And a Jefferson nickel, just 5 cents, can become a $1.2 million miracle. Check your coins. This exact nickel could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.
The story begins in 1992, a year that seemed ordinary for the U.S. Mint. Billions of coins rolled off the presses, including the humble Jefferson nickel. But hidden among them was something strange, something that never should have happened. A tiny error, invisible to the casual eye, created one of the most valuable nickels in existence. Just 5 cents in your hand, but worth up to $1.9 million at auction. But here's the twist. This wasn't some rare gold coin or a legendary silver dollar. It was a Jefferson nickel, the very coin Americans have carried in their pockets for decades. A coin that most people drop into a vending machine without a second thought. So what makes the 1992 nickel so mysterious? The answer lies in the mint mark. That small letter, pressed on the front of the coin, tells us where it was made. In this case, the Denver Mint. But in 1992, a handful of nickels were struck with something unusual in that tiny space. Collectors call it the RIT D variety, a mispunched or distorted mint mark that doesn't look like any other nickel of its year. At first glance, it just seems like a sloppy little letter. But under magnification, the truth emerges. The curve, the shape, the strike, all wrong. A mistake frozen forever in metal. And here's where the suspense rises. Very few of these nickels were ever confirmed. Some believe only a couple dozen exist. Others whisper that only a handful may have survived the melting pots and the years of circulation. Imagine billions of coins scattered across America, and inside them, a microscopic handful of million-dollar treasures. One of these nickels surfaced quietly at an estate sale. The family had no idea what they held. Just a roll of old change, tucked away in a cigar box. A dealer spotted the mint mark, his hands shaking as he realized what he'd found. That single coin would later sell for a staggering price, pushing close to $1.9 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, collectors everywhere started tearing through their change, hunting every nickel from 1992. Stories poured in of near misses, damaged coins that looked close but weren't quite right. The hype grew, dealers scrambled, And the legend of the 1992 Rit D nickel was born. So why is this small detail worth millions? Because the US Mint doesn't tolerate mistakes. Every mint mark is supposed to be sharp, precise, perfect. The Rit D broke the rules. A phantom error that slipped past inspectors. And when an error is this rare, the value explodes. Most people miss it. They glance at the nickel, see the D, and toss it aside. But under a jeweler's loupe, the secrets come alive. The misshapen letter, the uneven strike, the unmistakable fingerprint of history. And here's the most chilling part. Nobody knows exactly how many are still out there. A few might be sitting in jars, forgotten in attics. A few might be rattling around in circulation, handed over in change at a gas station or coffee shop. And one of them could be yours. Collectors were shocked to see such a common coin become a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. Dealers whispered about it at shows, shaking their heads in disbelief. How could a nickel be worth $1 million? But that's the magic of coin collecting. One man's pocket change became a miracle of fortune. And now, the hunt is on like never before. So how can you tell if you've got the right one? Start by checking every 1992 Jefferson nickel you find. Look carefully at the mint mark on the front, just to the right of Jefferson's portrait. If it's clean, sharp, and normal, it's worth 5 cents. But if it looks distorted, off-center, or strangely shaped, you could be holding history. Don't be fooled by damage. Scratches, dents, and wear can mimic errors. What you're looking for is the unusual shape of the D itself, pressed into the coin at the moment of minting. That's the detail collectors pay fortunes for. And if you think you've found one, never spend it. Protect it. Get it graded by a professional service. Because the right coin in the right condition has already proven it can command nearly $1.9 million. Every day, coins pass through our hands unnoticed. We buy coffee, feed meters, pay in change, and never once imagine we might be holding $1 million fortune between our fingers. Check your change. Search your drawers, because this exact nickel could be sitting in your pocket right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary, so everyday, that you toss it in a tip jar without a second thought. Now imagine learning that same coin could pay off your home, your debts, and still leave enough to change your family's future forever. That's the story of the 1990 Jefferson nickel with a mysterious WRITP mint mark. A mistake so rare, so bizarre, that collectors can hardly believe it exists. It began like any other year at the Philadelphia Mint. Billions of nickels rolling off the presses, each one stamped, bagged, and sent into circulation. But deep within those steel dies, something went wrong. A mark that wasn't supposed to be there. A mark that whispered of a hidden error, a blunder almost too strange to explain. On a handful of nickels, instead of the clean, simple mint mark, the letters appeared distorted, almost as if they spelled "Rit." For years, no one noticed. Pocket change moved from hand to hand. People bought coffee, dropped nickels in vending machines, let them fall between car seats. And all the while, these flawed 1990 nickels were vanishing into the shadows. One collector, sifting through a small bag of mixed change at a flea market, spotted something odd. The mint mark looked wrong. At first, he thought it was damage, a scratch, maybe a coin someone had defaced. But under magnification, it was clear this was no ordinary scratch. The mark was real, pressed by the die itself. He had stumbled onto one of the strangest minting mysteries in U.S. history. Word spread fast. Dealers were shocked. Phone calls lit up between numismatists, auction houses, and grading services. Was this real? Could such a bizarre error exist? And then came the first auction, where collectors battled fiercely, the price soaring past every expectation. By the time the hammer fell, this odd little nickel had crossed into legend, fetching numbers so high the crowd gasped. But here's the twist. This wasn't just any error. The Rit mark was crisp, intentional looking, and appeared only on a tiny handful of 1,990 nickels minted in Philadelphia. Theories swirled. Was it an engraver's inside joke? A mint worker's hidden signature? Or simply a freak accident never meant to see the light of day? No one could prove its origin. That mystery only fueled the fire and the value. Collectors now hunt obsessively, scanning every 1990 nickel with trembling hands, praying to see those strange, jagged letters. And for good reason. Authenticated examples have been valued at up to $1.8 million. That's not a typo. A nickel worth more than a mansion. But most people miss it. They glance, they shrug, they toss it aside. Because the difference is so small, so subtle, it hides in plain sight. Look too fast and you'll think it's just damage. But under a jeweler's loupe, the writ mark leaps out, undeniable. A secret etched in metal. Some experts believe dozens more are still out there, sitting in old coffee cans, buried in coin jars, sleeping in drawers where nickels have sat untouched since the 90s. They may already be in your home, waiting for the day someone finally notices one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector sold his find and walked away with more money than he'd ever dreamed possible. And yet, many examples may still be hiding. So how do you know if you've got it? Start with any 1990 Jefferson nickel. Flip it to the front. Just below Jefferson's portrait, to the right, sits the mint mark. On most coins, it's clean, a neat P for Philadelphia. But on the rarest nickels, that P doesn't look right at all. It looks stretched, broken, like it's spelling something, writ, not scratched, not worn, but baked into the coin itself. Don't confuse it with damage. Scratches cut into the metal. This mark rises with the strike. Don't mistake a worn P for the writ mark either. The real thing looks eerie, deliberate, like letters peeking out of the metal. If you see that, you might be holding one of the rarest coins ever made. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors whisper about it in hushed tones. And ordinary people, people who once thought coins were just loose change, are suddenly searching their pockets with shaking fingers. Because this isn't just about money. It's about the chance to find treasure where no one thought treasure could exist. To wake up one morning, dump out your change, and realize you're holding a key to a new life. This exact coin, the 1990 Jefferson nickel with the writ P mint mark, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? A 5-cent piece worth more than a mansion. But behind this coin's ordinary face lies a story of mistakes, misprints, and miracles that shook the coin world to its core. The tale begins in 1989, a year most people barely remember in the world of nickels. Millions were struck, handled, spent, and forgotten. But a tiny fraction, so small it could fit on one hand, carried a minting anomaly that turned common change into a fortune. One coin surfaced at a Midwest auction. To the untrained eye, it looked like pocket change. Scuffed, dull, nothing special. But a sharp-eyed collector noticed something that didn't belong. A bizarre mark near the mint stamp. Letters that weren't supposed to exist. A faint, ghostly impression that read Writ D. Dealers leaned in. Whispers spread through the crowd. And when the gavel finally struck, the bidding war had reached nearly $1 million. For a nickel. For something most people would have tossed into a jar. But here's where the story twists. Another copy was later found, in a bag of coins purchased at a garage sale for $5. The new owner nearly spent it at a gas station before spotting the same strange mint mark. That discovery set off a frenzy among collectors nationwide. Suddenly, everyone was checking their change, hoping lightning might strike twice. What makes it so rare? It's not just the year. It's not just the mint mark. It's the bizarre way the extra letters appear, almost as if they were carved by accident into the die itself. Some experts believe it was the result of a faulty engraving. Others think it may have been a one-time slip in the machinery. Whatever the truth, only a handful exist, and their value has skyrocketed. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to buy any suspicious 1989 nickel they could find. And those who once ignored pocket change suddenly saw it as a lottery ticket in disguise. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these Writ D nickels sold privately for a reported $1.7 million. Yes, a single 5-cent coin. Proof that the most valuable treasures can hide in plain sight. Here's the crucial detail you must know. The coin must be dated 1989. It must be a Jefferson nickel. And most importantly, Look just beside the D mint mark. If you see what looks like extra letters, faint, off-center, and spelling writ, you may be holding the key to a fortune. But be warned, thousands of people mistake ordinary scratches for the real thing. True examples are sharp, consistent, and unmistakable once you know where to look. That's why professional grading is essential. If you find one, send it to a trusted grading service immediately. Imagine it. One moment, you're digging through an old coffee can of change. The next, you're staring at $1 million miracle. The kind of discovery that pays off mortgages, changes families, rewrites lives. Every time you touch a nickel from 1989, remember this. Hidden among them are coins so rare, so powerful, they've rewritten the history of collecting. And the next legendary find could come from your pocket. This exact nickel could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.
I'm talking about the 1996 Jefferson nickel with a mysterious Rit D minting flaw. A coin so bizarre, so unexpected, that collectors can hardly believe it even exists. The story begins in 1996, when the U.S. Mint was cranking out hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. Just another year, another run of coins. But tucked inside that massive production line, a tiny mistake slipped through. A single die, the stamp that strikes the design onto a blank coin, carried a strange, unexplainable mark. Instead of the standard D mint mark used in Denver, an odd cluster of letters appeared, almost like the word writ. Experts still argue to this day whether it was a damaged die, an engraving error, or something even stranger. One of these odd nickels surfaced, a plain-looking 1996 piece with an extra swirl of letters near the mint mark. At first, the finder thought it was just scratched, maybe damaged in circulation. But under magnification, the truth came into focus. The letters weren't scratches. They were struck into the coin itself. A mint error, a once-in-a-lifetime accident. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, a 5-cent piece no one had cared about was now in the headlines. Auction whispers spread like wildfire. Have you heard about the Rit nickel? They say it could bring 6 figures, maybe even more. One of these strange 1996 Rit D nickels crossed the block at a private auction. The bidding started small, a few $100s. But then it climbed and climbed. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. By the time the gavel fell, it had shattered all expectations. Over $1.2 million for a nickel you could have spent on a candy bar. You see, regular 1996 nickels are everywhere. They're worth 5 cents, maybe $1 in perfect, uncirculated condition. But the Rit D nickel has something no normal coin has, a visible, unmistakable error baked into its DNA. Those strange extra letters, Rit, pressed right into the die itself, forever preserved on the surface. And because the U.S. Mint corrected the mistake almost immediately, only a handful of these oddities ever left the Denver Mint alive. Some experts say fewer than a dozen exist in the world. And every time one surfaces, the coin world goes into a frenzy. One man in Ohio found his in-pocket change at a gas station. He almost tossed it in with the rest of his coins, but something about the mint mark looked off. That tiny moment of curiosity turned into a payday he'll never forget. $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Another collector discovered his in a roll of nickels bought from the bank. Imagine opening a paper roll expecting 50 cents worth of coins, and instead holding a treasure worth more than most people's houses. Here's what to look for. First, the date must read 1996. That's the only year this error happened. Second, check for the Denver D mint mark, right next to Jefferson's portrait. But don't stop there. Under magnification, look closely at the area around that D. Do you see faint, strange extra letters? Something that looks like WRIT, pressed awkwardly into the coin? That's your jackpot. That's the sign you're holding one of the rarest nickels ever struck. And here's the trap that ruins so many would-be millionaires. Scratches, dents, or damage are not the same thing. If the marks cut across the coin, if they look carved in, it's worthless. But if the letters are raised, part of the strike itself, you may be staring at a coin that could change your life forever. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still paying record prices. And the odds are, most of these Rit nickels are still out there, forgotten in drawers, hiding in piggy banks, sleeping inside coffee cans filled with change. So check your nickels. Look closely. Don't dismiss that strange mark, because history has already proven what it can mean, and this exact nickel could be sitting in your pocket right now. The year was 1995. A simple Jefferson nickel, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, slipped into circulation. To the naked eye, it looked ordinary. 5 cents, nothing more. But something went terribly wrong during minting. A microscopic error, a misplaced detail, a mark that shouldn't have been there. And that mistake turned a humble nickel into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. For decades, people spent these coins on coffee, on parking meters, on groceries. Most vanished into jars, drawers, and dusty piggy banks. But a few survived, with the error still intact. And those survivors have shocked the entire coin world. At first, dealers thought it was just another minor misprint. But then came the discovery. The letters looked different. Something was etched into the die itself, leaving behind a bizarre writ impression near the mint mark. It wasn't supposed to exist. And yet, it did. A collector, flipping through a box of nickels at a local coin show, found one. He paid just 5 cents. Within weeks, experts confirmed it was genuine. And when it hit auction, the bids exploded. 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. By the time the gavel fell, the coin had soared to nearly $1 million. Dealers rushed to find more. Treasure hunters tore through coin rolls at banks. Families pulled out old jars of nickels, hoping lightning might strike twice. And every time a new piece surfaced, collectors were left in disbelief that it's not the year alone. Not the Jefferson design. It's the mint mark. On these nickels, just beside the Jefferson portrait, there's a faint, almost ghost-like, writ P impression. The letters are fragile, faint, sometimes broken. Many overlook it. But those who don't, those who take the time to study their coins with a magnifying glass, can strike gold. Imagine holding a coin in your hand, turning it under the light, and realizing the faint scratches are not scratches at all. They're history. They're the mistake that slipped past the mint, unnoticed, unstoppable. And suddenly, what looked like pocket change transforms into a fortune. Collectors were shocked. Stories spread like wildfire. The idea that a 5-cent coin could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house, more than someone's life savings, it was unthinkable. Yet here it was, in the palm of a hand, staring back in silver-gray metal. Because the 1995 writ P nickel doesn't always look perfect. Some examples are faint, some stronger. Some are dismissed as damage, scratches, wear and tear. That's the trap. Many owners spend theirs without ever realizing what they had. That's why this coin remains one of the most elusive modern treasures in U.S. history. Think about it. How many people tossed these into Coinstar machines? How many kids dropped them into piggy banks and never looked twice? How many are still waiting, sitting quietly in jars and drawers, forgotten for decades? Every day, new rolls of nickels are opened. Every day, someone empties out an old collection. And every day, the chance of finding one of these million-dollar miracles is alive. Start with the year, 1995. Next, check the mint mark. You're looking for a Philadelphia strike, the P, but here's the magic. Just beside it, or ghosted within it, you'll see the faint impression of the letters writ. Sometimes clear, sometimes broken, always wrong. That is the telltale sign. That don't confuse it with scratches. Don't assume it's damage. Study the letters carefully. If you see writ P, you may be staring at a treasure worth hundreds of thousands, or even close to $1 million. Dealers are still desperate to get their hands on these coins. Auctions buzz with excitement when one appears. And every discovery fuels the dream that the next life-changing nickel is still hiding out there. This isn't just a story about money. It's a story about luck, about chance, about the power of keeping your eyes open when everyone else is looking away. Because for one lucky collector, a forgotten nickel turned into the greatest payday of his life. And that's why you need to check every single 1995 nickel in your collection, in your change jar, in your wallet right now. Because this exact nickel could be sitting in your drawer at this very moment, and it's worth over $1 million.